In this video, I'm going to show you how Dr. Dre was able to make a $3 billion move that made him a billionaire, right? And he was hip-hop's first billionaire. But guess what? It wasn't from music, right? It was from a single product that sold for $3 billion. And this is the Beats by Dre blueprint, how culture, control, and connection transformed headphones into an empire. I constantly do breakdowns like this because I show you how you could build multi-million-dollar brands that you end up selling. And I also have a coaching community where I document how I'm building Phoenix watches to the $100 million mark. I've sold 2 brands for $128 million. Now let's dive deep into it. Now, the first thing he did was change something that was seen as a commodity to become a cultural symbol, right? Now, you must understand that yes, the product was great, right? It was engineered for emotional experience, not just technical specs. Then 2, it was a style-forward design. It was built as sneakers for your ears with very, very distinctive aesthetics. Like once you see a Beats by Dre, you instantly know that, oh yeah, this is a Beats by Dre product, right? And it then became a status symbol. It became a lifestyle signal, not just a tech product, right? And this will explain to you how he was able to do this and how he was able to win, people's interest. 1, the celebrity ecosystem, right? NBA players. Athletes adopted Beats by Dre as a pre-game essential gear. So you literally see it in every training of the athletes, and it was giving them an amazing experience. Then 2, rappers and musicians. Music stars wore Beats in videos and performances, right? So suddenly you started seeing in videos, in all their performances, they were rocking Beats by Dre. And so it started becoming a cultural identity. Then you will see it at celebrity sightings, right? Paparazzi constantly captured stars with Beats at airports. So it now became like, oh shit, all these relevant symbols to the culture are rocking it, right? And then media exposure. It always appeared in music videos, creating constant visibility. So constant repetition and constant exposure is one of the things that engineers desires in people, right? And with the constant repetition by all these symbols, it became culturally acceptable. So when your product becomes part of the culture, you've already won. For example, myself, the way I've been able to get so many people interested in Phoenix watches is that's the watch I wear in most of my videos, right? And so you want to create something that is instantly identifiable. Now, engineering ownership, not just attention, right? Now, if you watch the video where I talked about how Kanye lost his empire, you will see why Dre was able to stay in charge, right? Strategic partnerships. He controlled collaborations with artists, athletes, and leagues, right? So the league of basketballers, the athletes, the musicians, there was constant collaborations, but it was also very strategic. He wasn't partnering with anyone who he feel didn't align with the brand values that he had, right? Which is why you as founders must know from the jump, like, who exactly do you want to partner with? What do they represent to your brand? If it doesn't align, then there's no point in partnering with them. Then limited editions, which was engineered to create scarcity and urgency. That's one thing you must look at. Like every brand who has built momentum and become successful, in the beginning, they were not always available. And even some brands, that's their model. For us, we only release 1,200 pieces in a year, and that's 400 pieces per drop. So no matter what, no matter how, we don't exceed that, right? And that drives so much demand. Emotional storylines. They launched with feelings, not features. They didn't say, hey, this product sounds like this, it feels like this. No, it's like, this is how you feel when you wear a Beats by Dre. And then because you see it on, the people that you look up to, the people that you admire, suddenly it transfers that feeling of, oh, now today I can wear something by that DJ Khaled has won, I can wear something that Jay-Z has rocked, then definitely I want to be a part of this, right? And then creative control. It maintained authority over the brand image and the messaging, right? Most brands rent attention. Dre and Levine owned it and used it strategically. The issue with Kanye and why he lost his empire is because he didn't have creative control completely. He didn't have total creative control. He had a bit of control, but Nike had the most part, right? And when you think about it, partnerships were also not that strategic. So the invincible demand strategy, he always had the product placement before release. So Beats Pill speakers, which you'll see here, right? It always appeared in music videos before market launch. So you would see it in places that are things that represent something to the culture, right? Then cultural integration, products woven into entertainment naturally, not as obvious ads. So you're constantly seeing it, but it is bypassing your skepticism because you're just seeing it. Nobody is saying, come and buy this. It just feels like something that you want to belong to. It feels like something you want to be a part of, which prebuilds desire. Consumers wanted products before they could even buy them, right? So now they wanted to spend their money on it, and you just need to give them a place and a time to buy. Then coveted access. Ownership became about joining an exclusive club. It's the same thing. This blueprint is literally the same thing I replicated with Phoenix watches. Product was always placed in my videos, and people are constantly asking, how can I buy? Where can I buy it, right? Then cultural integration, I was just doing it as a part of everything that I do, which harmed the desire of my audience. And then coveted access, because you know that when you buy a Phoenix watch, you belong to a group of 5%ers around the world, and you can only access this group by having a Phoenix watch. It made people want to be a part of it. And so Beats didn't win because they were louder. They won because they were loved, right? If your brand is loved, then you're always going to make money. And then the $3 billion exit blueprint. Global brand recognition. It was instantly identifiable in any market worldwide because, you know, they stood out, right? Cultural dominance, unmatched position as the cool choice. Once you become the preference for anyone, then sure, you're always going to win. Then premium distribution, strategic placement in high-end retail environments. So if you're placed in places like, there's something called linking theory, right? So if every time you see this phone, you're able to see this phone only in a Bentley, you're going to start ascribing the value of a Bentley to this phone, right? And if you go on my watch brand's Instagram, you're going to see that it's just my watch brand and then supercars, my watch and then supercars, my watch and then supercars. So suddenly you feel like for you to be someone who wears this watch, you need to be the person who can afford this kind of car. So it's just subconscious, but it's how it works. Loyal customer base, followers who would migrate to new offerings. Apple wasn't buying headphones, they were buying Dre's chokehold on being cool, right? And this is what led to the $3 billion exit. So this is the brand architect's playbook, right? You need to establish your place in culture first by positioning before the product. I didn't release my products until I had positioned myself and penetrated into the market long enough. Then you create demand before distribution because you make people desire what you have before it is available, and then emotion before ad spend. Build feeling-based connections that transcend features. Like nobody cares about what my watch looks like or what features are on it. They just care about being able to access it, right? And then legacy pricing. Position for acquisition, not just sales, right? So you need to build brands that look like brands, not drop shipping pages. Architecture matters. So this is how Drake was able to build a $3 billion empire, and he was able to go from headphones to empire. How? With a deep understanding of the audience. Beats knew what people wanted to feel, not just hear. Brilliant brand control. Every touch point was managed with precision and purpose, and then the back end that scaled. Systems supported growth beyond the initial hype cycle. Drake didn't just make headphones, he made a cultural phenomenon, scaled it with precision, and sold it with legacy pricing. And coming next is J-Lo's $400 million quiet skincare empire built from stage presence, not social noise. Now this and more is what I explain on this channel. I break down how brands have succeeded, why the brands are successful, and also how creators can go from selling their time or attention for money to turning their attention into equity. So if you're interested in becoming a private client of mine, DM me private on Instagram at ecomwithabdul, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Then check out this video where I talked about how Kanye West lost his $3 billion empire. I'll see you in the next video.